Hello viewers, welcome to this in another series of Carbon Chemicals Live. We're truly happy today that you could have joined us. My name is Dayne Parker, Product Development Agronomist for the Central Region. Today's topic of discussion is Saeta and Evergreen. May I just apologize for the technical difficulties we're having to our Instagram viewers, those persons who are trying to log in. We're having a bit of difficulty in uploading to the platform. So, if you so desire, you could view the link that has been distributed and you can go directly to our YouTube feed. All right, so let's get into the subject matter. Again, as I said this afternoon, we're looking at the field results from having used our Saeta and Evergreen. Now, of course, the conversation is going to be varied right across the length and breadth of this parish and country rather, and at the same time, we will be looking at varying crops. So you name the crop, we would have done some amount of field work in it. And if you do have your ornamentals, we'll of course be discussing how the approach is in that. So let's get into it. Now, of course, we want to look at Excel Ag as a company that carries Saeta and Evergreen. They were founded in 2001 with their global headquarters in Miami, Florida. Now, of course, their main aim is focused on discovery and research and developing molecules that are, of course, innovative. And the key focus here is what we call the NIP technology, which is nutrition, immunization, and protection. And so what we'll be looking at this afternoon is the nutrition and the immunization side of it. Later on in the year and in the season to come, we'll be looking at the other section of it. Now, the 6 business line basically focus on sustainable products and on sustainable practices with chemistries that are both organic as well as inorganic. However, they have a very low or minute environmental footprint, and this of course is part of the benefit why we would have partnered with Excel Ag here at Carbon Chemicals and so forth. They would have had over 100 products in their portfolio. And of course, we'll be discussing just 2 of them. So perhaps you might be asking, what is Saeta? What is Evergreen? We would have done extensive topic discussion on this before. So you can, of course, look in our channel. You'll see more information. But of course, just a brief overview. So what is Saeta? Saeta is a double action product. It is both a fertilizer as well as it strengthens the plant immune system. Why is it considered to be a fertilizer? It contains calcium as well as phosphorus in the formula. Now we're talking about 41% calcium, and we all know that calcium is directly geared toward the strengthening of the plant cell wall and of course giving rigidity and allow for the strengthening, so you get both weight and quality of your final product. The other component to it is a 40% phosphorus. And this, of course, is building your plant's root structure. And farmers out there who are not aware and those who are aware would agree with me that once you have a big roots on your plant, then that's going to also result in greater uptake of your minerals or your nutrients from your soil, or be it your hydroponic system. And of course, that's going to result in a larger canopy, more fruit set, and better productivity. The other side, as I'd mentioned, to Saeta is the immunity builder, which of course is the phosphonate that is present in this compound. And what this really does, it's acting in a synergistical way where it's moving through the xylem and the phloem of the plant, and of course building the plant's capacity to respond to stress, and when I say stress here, we're talking about environmental changes. And at the same time, it's also providing stress tolerance, building the plant's immunity, so you can of course look out for that. So for issues where you have like Phytophthora or you have Pythium, then Saeta of course is the product to use in your equation. Now, how is Saeta applied? It's applied in via foliar or via drench or through your fertigation setup. Now, the conversation we're going to be having also would look at all of these measures, and then you would see how the product would have benefited farmers in the long term. As a foliar nutrient, you can apply at 10 grams per gallon of water. As a drench, we double that rate, which is 20 grams. And if you're going through your fertigation system, it's 1 to 1.5 kilograms per acre of land. And of course, the application in your solanaceous crops at least 3 times, where you have at least a 10 to 14 days intervals in between it, just to give the plant that high phosphorus so you can get the quick takeoff and optimum growth. Now, we did say we're talking about Saeta and Evergreen, so let's look at Evergreen in detail. Now, Evergreen, like Saeta, is a nutritional product that comes with 22 minerals or mineral elements, both be it macro or micro. It comes with kelp, it comes with vitamins, it comes with plant growth regulators, and here we're talking about cytokinins and auxins, and it also contains humic acid. And the benefit of this now is that if you apply in soil, the plant is picking up, it's stimulating your soil, it's stimulating root development, and so your plant is going to be responding in a faster manner. Just look at the graphic here. We're talking about, on the humic side, you're talking about gibberellins, you're talking about auxins, you're talking about kelp, and this of course is stimulating shoot as well as root development. In terms of the micronutrients, you're talking about boron, copper, manganese, zinc, sulfur, and these are direct precursors to the uptake of calcium to help with the chlorophyll formation and such like. And where the vitamins are concerned, of course, you're talking about your amino acid compounds, the building blocks of it that are going to be helping the plant to increase in biomass and in growth and development. Now, like Saeta, Evergreen is also applied via foliar, via drench, or through your fertigation. And this is at least by 10 mils per gallon if you're doing it foliarly, or if you're doing drench, it's the same application rate, or you double or triple up your application rate if you're going in soil, so as to make use of the added components in it. So that's 1 to 1.5 liters per acre of land. Now, what we're going to be discussing now are some of the field results and from the different responses we're seeing in the field right across the length and breadth of Jamaica. Now, here we have a demonstration that was done in the agro park. This is Ebony Park, Spring Plain side, and the crop is sweet pepper. Now, what we're really having is a situation where we had the death of the plant. It was obvious that we were having some amount of damping off. The plants were dying. This was after the heavy rains there in early April, March, April, thereabouts. Now, why in soil? As I had mentioned to you earlier, now Saeta, of course, has the properties where it's going to be helping the plant to recover from your phytophthora. Now, we paired Saeta along with carbendazim with a view to stop whatever soil-borne fungus that is present, as well as to build that plant root structure so you can have a quicker takeoff and recovery. Now, what we found in the untreated side is that we had over 50% of those plants dying off. And of course, as a farmer, you know that the more plants you lose, it simply means that's less revenue or money coming into the pocket. On the treated side, however, what we had were more plants remaining alive. Over 80% of the plants remaining alive, and were, of course, continued in terms of productivity. And so this is a plus where we talk about stopping the problem right at the root, and of course building the plant's structure as it continues. Now, the other demonstration saw field work in Irish potato. And again, the benefit here where it comes on to potato cannot be overemphasized. You're talking about larger tubers, less cracks, heavier food, or the tubers themselves. So the strategy here and now was to extend the fungicidal program, given again with the intermittent showers that we were having in the earlier period in the year. And so this was done in the Denham Farm, Devon region in Manchester. Now, if you note, all we did was to change to add to the farmer's tank mix. So when he sprayed his portion of field, all we did was to add Saeta and Evergreen. Now, note carefully that after 14 days of the application that the control plot started to go down. What is happening here? The phosphonate that is present in Saeta is actually helping the plant to grow and to continue to develop, and is also adding to storage and building the plant's resistance as it goes. Take a look further. As the crop matured and got older, the Saeta Evergreen portion of field remained vigorous. It continued to grow and continue to develop. We actually had to do what we call top killing in this instant so as to allow for drying down of the field. But note what is happening in the control area. The plants are actually continuously dying. They are going down one after the other as a result of the impact of the fungal disease that is present in field. And so let's look closer now at the final results in terms of having harvested this potato. Now, what we found in terms of a 5-row area that we just harvested is that we had over 89 pounds of marketable tubers. And when we say that, we're talking about those that are free from blemishes, free from any cracks, free from any other deformities. Whereas in the same, the control area, what we had was actually a 45-pound harvest. The other tubers, they were either cracked or damaged. And so if you look carefully now, you're talking about, in terms of going to market, we're talking about a 10% damage, 11% damage in terms of the Saeta Evergreen area, as compared now to 84% damage in the control area. So there you have it in terms of the major gap and difference. You see the difference in terms of the quality, in terms of the size, as well as in the case of the control area, a lot of tubers were not able to go to market. Those would have been what we call second class or third class tubers that you can't really sell for the optimum price. And so that is where the difference is concerned, where the use of Saeta and Evergreen. I hope you are, of course, taking note of what is happening in the different crops, and as we dissect it even further. Now, cauliflower was the next crop that we actually looked at. And here we had a situation where these was applied to firm up the heads, to give you bigger and better weight, and of course to increase the quality, the overall market quality or marketability of the curds themselves. And so what were the findings? In terms of the treated area, again, what we see, as you see in the graphic here, more uniform heads. As I'm pointing out here, you notice all four of them lined up, the uniformity in the heads. If you look at the control, you had a few that were small, some large. And so even when you're going to market, ideally you want to have this kind of consistency in your output. If you notice, you might just have one large head in the control and then a few other small ones. That can't make up much. But when it comes on to the treated area where Saeta and Evergreen was applied, those curds were actually in uniform size. And if you notice the yield, we started out at 81 pounds compared to 39, over 50% more in terms of your harvest. Look at the numbers. In the second harvest, we're talking about 230 compared to 110 pounds. Again, this is double the rate after 3 applications. So if you're not liking Saeta and Evergreen just yet, I don't know what you're farming. So see what is happening here now in terms of the conversation now. Faster rate of growth. We're talking about reduced transplanting shock. And at the same time, we had more uniform curds or uniform heads throughout the entire field. And so this is just another example of how Saeta comes out on the winning side when applied to your tank mix. Now, the other situation that we were trying to look at was to see how we could correct what is known as blossom end rot in sweet peppers. This was, of course, done in Boghole in Clarendon. Now, Saeta was applied at 10 mils per gallon, same for your Evergreen. Take a look at the results as you note them. Now, what we saw was a greater level of consistency where fruit set was concerned. If you notice in the pictures to the left of the screen, the area that says treated, you see multiple fruit set going right up, and you also have blossoms at the top. In the case of the control area, what we had, fewer fruits in the nodes, some were aborting, But if you note carefully where my hand is, you are seeing a situation where you had blossom end rot showing up in the crop, versus in the treated era, this was totally absent. Now, further on as the crop developed, we recognized that the farmer had to be harvesting these damaged fruits, and he's throwing them out because, of course, they are unmarketable. The benefit of using a calcium with phosphonate and phosphorus in it, along with something that has plant growth regulators, is consistency, consistency, consistency. And so here again, another fine example of how Saeta and Evergreen impacts the plant's development and growth. But we're not finished yet, farmers. We have more examples of how this product has been used. And so we're going across the island again. We're in Clarendon. This is an onion crop, and the farmer is using Saeta and Evergreen. What's the purpose here? The argument is to increase the bulb size, to get more uniformity, and at the same time you're building what? Disease tolerance, because the plant is much more tolerant to issues like your purple blotch, your stem phylum blight, all these things. It's extending the efficacy also of your fungicide program. Now, if you notice now, this is the portion of field that we would have been dealing with. Now, the vigor, the greenness, the color, the camera cannot capture it, but we captured the information here and now for you. And so what we had, a greater level of uniformity in the bulbs. We also had more consistent size in the tubers. So let me keep it there. We're talking also about a shorter time to maturity. And again now, the calcium, remember I said it earlier, the shelf life, because it's impacting on the cell walls. So the cell walls are more rigid, so you have a longer shelf life. Take a look at the image of the onions on the ground. We're talking about consistency throughout the entire period, or throughout the entire field, with using this product. So here's where we did some grading or selection. We basically just use an average of 3 inches or under, 3 inches for large onions, so 3 inches and up, and 2 inches and below. And we graded this. And what we found was that you had a higher level of consistency where large onions were concerned. Onions that are 3 inches and above. And as compared to the control era, where you had more onions in a situation where they were in, so the bulk of the onion in the control era was under 2 inches. What does this mean at the end result where the farmer is concerned? It means that he can market at a differentiated price level. Simply put, he can command more for the large onions and he'll get a lower price for the small onions. Good? And so in the control era, what he was able to obtain was a greater amount of revenue after having done 2 applications of Saeta with Evergreen, only 2. And so as compared now to the control era, where he would have obtained a smaller revenue. We're talking about $65,000 compared to $48,000. It might not be much, but guess what? We didn't use the entire packet of Saeta and Evergreen. So if we extrapolate now, if we put that into an acre of projection, you're talking about a difference of over $400,000 difference in terms of yield per square. So you're talking about more money in the pocket of the farmer because he would have incorporated Saeta and Evergreen into his program. But let's look on further in terms of tomatoes. Now, this farmer was actually planting the cocktail, or what we call cherry tomatoes. And so what we did was to step in to do a foliar as well as a root drench. The goal here at the time was to just determine if the product itself would increase the plant's vigor and in terms of time to fruiting or maturity. And again, like the others, farmers, viewers, we are seeing the responses. The plant is responding in a phenomenal way. And so what we saw was a greater tendency of the plant to grow. Literally, what we recognized was that when the treated area had 2 and 3 clusters, the control plot was just about ready to flower. And so what does that mean? Shorter time to market, literally. So you can move into market recognizing that you are using Saeta and Evergreen into your foliar nutrition program, because it's extending the plant life and giving you that boost and bringing you quicker revenue in a shorter possible time. So where we had the fruit set, the control plot was just about ready to start putting out its first blossom here, as you see me pointing out here, versus the treated area that had 2 and going on into 3 clusters with fruit. The first fruit cluster would have been very much out already. And so if you're not convinced again that Saeta and Evergreen is a product to be used, let me show you another example yet again of how we went into the field and used Saeta with Evergreen. Take a look. This, of course, is in strawberry. Yes, I know I have some person's attention now when I mention strawberry. Now, these were bare-rooted plants acquired, Albion to be exact, and they were again going to be used. The goal again was to reduce transplanting shock, increase the root development, and of course prevent any kind of fusarium wilt or anything of the sort. We don't want to lose any of these plants because money was spent. Now what we did, we went in and used Saeta and Evergreen in a 1-to-1 ratio. In other words, we used 10 ml of each product per gallon of water, and these are the results. When we took these images, when everybody came and looked at these plants, farmers, the best way to see these plants is to come on site and look at them. I tell you the truth. If you look at the root mass that is here in the control, then you'll see the amazing thing. Now, if you look at even the leaf and the vigor, these are actually putting out runners. So the benefit now of also using Evergreen in the mixture, I said it earlier, it contains plant growth regulators, your gibberellins, your cytokinins. And so what you're getting here are runners coming off the treated plants. They were also even flowering. But look at this root mass. Excellent root structure. That tells you that anywhere you put this plant, it's just going to take off. We had to actually pick out a lot of the blossoms because the farmer's objective at the time was to also get more runners. Since she's seeing the runners coming out, he said, let's capitalize on them because she wanted to expand. And again now, look at the control plot. Look at the control plants. If you see right here to the left and the right, both of them started out literally the same way, farmers. The same amount of plants looking the same way, just like a week or 2 after. And as we started to apply the Saeta and Evergreen, note the big difference that is taking place. The foliage got greener, the root mass started to develop, and as I said, runners and blossoms were coming out. So what you got? Benefit over benefit over benefit by just using Saeta as a drench in these trees. Are you yet convinced? Next time you visit your farm store, what are the 2 products you should be asking for? Saeta and Evergreen. Make sure you add them to your mix tank. Again, another example, we were in Sligoville, this is in St. Catherine, and we're looking at cabbage this time. Again, the goal is to have the consistency in terms of the size of the heads and at the same time the weight, because you know it's cabbage. Once you cut it, you know that's what you're taking to market and you only get to cut once. So the goal at this time again to, in the rainy season, the cabbage tend to have a split or the heads burst. And so we wanted to see if Saeta along with Evergreen could shut this down. As a matter of fact, we only use, yes, Saeta and Evergreen. So the approach again, we're using Saeta at 15 grams and we're also using Evergreen at 20 ml. So bigger head, less crack, shorter time to maturity. This is the response in terms of the plant. Once we started to cut the heads, it was almost like a commonality. We could literally pick it up and say, yeah man, over 3 pounds. Each time we sampled the field, what we found was that the heads were not just uniform, they were not splitting. That's 1. And 2, there was a higher level of consistency within the treated area. Now, once the farmer started to see the response, before it gets to the point of the head starting to roll, of course, the farmer starts to investigate and say, hey, what am I using over there? And again, too, we disclose, and the farmer say, you know what, let's treat the entire place. So while we were 1 or 2 applications ahead of the farmer, he went into and used Saeta Evergreen in his portion of field, and the results were the same. So what is our point of comparison? His neighbor planted cabbage. And if you notice to the left right here, the gentleman, of course, his neighbor was really looking over the fence and said, boy, the grass green over there, so for real. Because what was happening? His heads were splitting. And as you know where cabbage is concerned, once rain starts to fall, those heads are going to start splitting. And so if the calcium is not present to hold that structure together and to keep it turgid, then you're going to be losing those heads. And you know how the cabbage split from the heart come right through. So you can't even mark it a half a head of cabbage. So you would have lost everything right there. And so over 20% of the heads in that field were splitting, whereas we had no head splitting in the Saeta Evergreen plot. This again is another proof that the chemistry works. So far we've covered cauliflower, we've looked, it can be used in broccoli, we looked at tomato, we looked at sweet pepper. We're going to be looking further. We looked at cabbage, and now we're going to another crop. Now this one, of course, is thyme. Step outside of the block, outside of the norm, and look at it. Now in this situation, we're trying to do several things. 1, time to maturity. Again, 2, thyme is known to have what is called black rot, and so that's also on the mind of the agronomist as he treats the field. And these are the responses that we're getting. If you notice the size heads, the uniformity, none of them die out. Some of them even start to lock up already, which shows you that the amino acid that is present and the gibberellins that is present in evergreen is actually pushing the plant to grow and to develop. If you notice too, in the control area, you see the area how it's sparse? A lot of them dead, a lot of them die out. A few of them in here actually have black rot, as you see where the cursor is pointing. And so this is the situation inside the field as it is at the moment. And so again, the farmer is on the winning side with having used Saeta and Evergreen in his field. Why is this so? Because he's benefiting from the calcium, he's benefiting from the phosphorus and the added plant growth regulators, as well as the NPKs, as well as the micronutrients. So when you combine the two, what you're getting is a complete package that can be applied both foliarly as a drench or through your fertigation system to any plant that you can consider. At this time, of course, we're just going to take a quick recap, and then we get into the heart of the matter. So if you have questions, of course, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will, of course, we'll respond to them accordingly, and of course provide the answers on point. So again, in terms of recapping, the benefit of using the product, you're getting plant growth regulators, 1. You're also getting nutrition, 2. You're also getting immunization or protection from the plant by using the chemistry. And so overall, what you'll get also is a shorter time to maturity. You're going to be getting uniformity in the crop, and again to extended shelf life having used these products. Who wouldn't want to be using Saeta and Evergreen in the different crops? Now we're going to be expanding the field work, and so as we expand and look into other crops, you will hear from us and see the testimonials either via the different social media platform or in our live conversations. Now, of course, as we continue to share this information, you can, of course, go back to this presentation, watch it, pause it, take your notes and do what needs to be done, so you can, of course, feel free to participate. We also have 2 giveaways, I'm told, this afternoon. So somebody is going on with a Saeta and somebody is going to be getting an Evergreen this afternoon. Who could it be? Is it me? No, it's not. It's one of you joining the live that is very much present there. And so coming up in this week, or next week rather, we will be having, well, tomorrow Saturday, the 4th of June, we'll be having an orchid show. And of course, this is going to be with Winston Scott, as well as tune in to Power 106 on June 8th, as we will look at our radio feature. We're talking about from backyard to urban agriculture. And yours truly, along with the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, will be on show, talking about how we can use some of the different spaces, rooftops, the container gardens, small-scale hydroponics, to, of course, grow what you eat and eat what you grow, if I can borrow that statement. And of course, should you require further assistance in you name the size of the production, and you need technical support, of course, Dale Smith, Aluda Shaw is in the St. James, Hanover side. Cian Spence and Andre Rance is in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. Yours truly, Dayne Parker and Charmaine Walker Robinson is in Clarendon and Manchester. And you have John Oy Johnson and Jaden Dillon, who is in St. Thomas, St. Andrew and St. Catherine, and on Patrick Kenyon and Dennis Lecky in St. Mary, Portland. As you feel free, the numbers are there. Reach out to us at 757-0022, or you can drop us a text via WhatsApp at 401-4766. Use up the numbers. The information is always there. And if you also didn't remember those, 757-0022, and that goes all the way up to 4. So you can reach out to us at the front desk. You'll be transferred to the respective party. Are there any questions at this time as we continue? And may I just ask my question while I am at it? So we spoke about Saeta and Evergreen in the incident with sweet peppers. Can you just tell me what was the name of the disease or the problem that was in that field? So from the presentation, if you were participating and watching, what was the name of that disease that we were trying to correct or stop? So that's the question. That's our first question. So from the presentation, what was the name of that disease that was drop it, the response in the type, the response is in the chat. Stephanie Roper is on board along with our studio technicians. They will, of course, respond and tell me if you have responded and what that answer is. Stephanie, are you seeing any responses as yet? So question number 1, what was the name of the disease we were trying to correct or to treat in the sweet pepper plot that is in the agro park? Stephanie, are you seeing any responses as yet?
Stevie.
Yes, Stevie.
Henry says blossom end rot.
Stevie in blossom end rot. Well, Stevie, I spoke about 2 sweet pepper. The blossom end rot is in Bogwell Clarendon, and that was a different scenario. So we're talking about that. So Steve, you're not wrong if you're talking about yes, Saeta Evergreen can control, Saeta by itself can prevent and control blossom end rot, but that's not the example I gave. I gave 2 sweet peppers. I'm sorry about that, Stevie, but think a bit about it some more and let me know. Think about it. I know you have the answer there. Somebody out there has the answer. Anybody else? Stephanie. So again, there was an issue with the excess rain, hint, hint, and that would have led to the intervention, and the intervention would have led to a certain kind of result. No, Stevie. Come, Stevie, I know you have the answer. It affects the root system. similar to something that happens in the nursery. That's a second and a third hint I gave you. While you're thinking about that some more, let me ask the second question. Yes, there's an answer?
Yes. So Stevie says Phytophthora.
Yes, man. Yes, Stevie, Phytophthora. So how do we do it, Stevie? We drench the soil with it. So you are very much correct. Listeners, those who are viewing, the issue was Phytophthora. The plants were dying off, and so we stepped in with carbendazim and Saeta and drenched the root structure. So congratulations, Stevie. You would have won for yourself a prize this afternoon. So please to share your information with us. Send it to our WhatsApp line at 4014766. So don't put it in the public chat. Send it directly to us. Our WhatsApp number 4014766. We will just indicate your name, your location, so we can, of course, send your prize out to the respective person, right? Don't just tell them, say, if you're from Manchester, then say Stevie, Manchester, and your contact number, and Stephanie or Georgia from marketing will reach out to you. So question number 2. Yes, question number 2. You ready? Question number 2. Identify one or two components of evergreen. Evergreen contains 22 minerals and vitamins and all these things. Identify 2 components. What is in these 22 things? What are these things, and how are they benefiting the plant? I'll share that with you shortly, but if I share how they benefit, I might have to tell you the answer, right? So tell me in the chat 2 of the different components, the things that make up evergreen. Stephanie, are you seeing anybody responding just yet?
So he's not responding to this
okay.
question, but he has a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Stevie, with your question.
Stevie from YouTube, he says, I have significant problems with blossom end rot and Saeta, the Saeta, but a little to no result.
Okay, all right. So 2 things could be occurring there where you have Saeta.
So you may have used the Saeta.
You would have used the Saeta, but you're not seeing the response. Now remember, if the impact is already there, then those fruits are unmarketable. Remove those because it's going to correct it. It's going to correct the future peppers that are coming out. And I suspect it's peppers. Which crop is it? Is it pepper or tomato? Now, also bear in mind too that if you are not having sufficient water in your soil, then remember calcium is not mobile as it is. It's one of those lazy minerals. So ensure that you have sufficient moisture in the soil so you can have what we call translocation, the movement of the pull of the nutrients up and down the xylem and phloem. So ensure that is what you're doing. Also, another strategy you could do, Stevie, if you're using it at 10 mLs or 10 grams per gallon, you're not getting the response, then you can go up to a tablespoon or you can even double the rate. Now, Stevie, drop us your location too in the chat so we can, of course, reach out to you, have someone visit the farm and take a more detailed look at what is going on. But those are some of the things that can cause. Remember, calcium, again, as I said, is immobile, so you normally tend to need moisture to have it being moved through the plant system. So ensure that you have sufficient moisture at your root zone so you have that movement taking place. If not, if you're doing that, then up the rate from 10 to 15 or 20 grams per gallon of water. All right? Sure. So any responses so far to the second question?
So it's Stevie again. He says micronutrients and PGR.
Micronutrients and PGR. Go ahead. Am I seeing a situation where it's only Stevie come to class today? What happened to the rest of my class? Well, Stevie, you are right again. So plant growth regulators, and you're also getting micronutrients in the mixture. Now, bear in mind that the product comes with these 22 minerals. And when we say plant growth regulators, we're talking about your gibberellic acid, you're talking about your auxins and your cytokinins, and the purpose of that is to, again, improve the growth and development of your plants overall. The micronutrients acting like the barrow, the wheelbarrow in moving those products, the macronutrients around the plant. So you're talking about your zinc, your boron, your molybdenum, those products, and of course it comes with your NPK as well. So since Stevie might have to give you 1.5 prize, can we give Stevie both prize? Let me might have to ask a third question, because somebody else out there needs to also win another prize this afternoon, because guess what? I want you to leave here not just informed, but of course with a product in hand so you can go and apply to your crop. Now, in strawberries, what were some of the results we saw where we did the treatment? What were the observations that we recorded earlier in the program? I hope you were paying keen attention. So we're pulling the questions from the presentations now. What were some of it? I might share with you that we recognize a farmer who started to use the Saeta Evergreen, and of course we're talking about we did a comparison how many pepper fruit, that's hot pepper, that gave you a pound, and we're looking at we're talking about 9 compared to a dozen. So we're talking about so far the results are getting quite exciting. That speaks to the size and the mass of the peppers. So 9 from the treated area compared to 12. Some people might say 9, 10, 11, 12. That's not much that, Mr. Parker. But guess what? When you talk about peppers, they are not usually very heavy. And so the goal is to increase the weight so you can get an outturn in the longer run. All right. So what was the reason and what were some of the results we saw in terms of strawberries? Are there any responses to that question thus far? So when you talk about the consistency, we talk about the quality, talk also about the efficacy of this product. It was indeed a pleasure to have had you this afternoon. Of course, bear in mind that we are also on Power 106 this and every Wednesday morning from 6:15 until 6:45, where we're talking about, of course, more in the business of agriculture and how we can improve your livelihood. This Wednesday, we'll be talking about urban agriculture and how we can, of course, use some of our urban spaces to improve productivity levels. Thank you for joining us, and continue to like, comment, and subscribe to our pages as we continue to provide for you information on how to improve your productive levels. Are there any other questions? Stephanie, I see your signal. No, there are no more questions at this time. So Stevie, I hope you had shared your contact. So join us next time as we have more in the series where we talk more in agriculture. Let's continue to grow your farming business.